As I was tearing the original roof off this motorhome, I found these strips of tin sheeting glued between the plywood and the styrofoam inner layer. I wasn't sure what purpose they served or why they were put there, but I knew there had to be a reason. There was no way the factory was going to add extra work or extra weight unnecessarily. You can see there's one odd shape up here indicated by the red arrow. Some of that had been removed when I cut it with a circular saw and pulled the roof pieces off. But most of them went from side to side in regular intervals. You can see here there's the one, and then there's another one a little farther up, and then a little farther up yet there's another one going across. And I didn't know what they did or what they were for, but then later when I was thinking about putting the new sheets of plywood on, I got to thinking about where the edges butted together and how to keep those edges from warping and twisting against each other and coming apart. Then I realized that's what those metal strips were for. They glued the edges together with those metal strips like giant pieces of tape. I couldn't glue metal strips underneath plywood, so I had to come up with a different idea. I got a sheet of 3/8 inch plywood, cut it into 6-inch strips, and put those strips underneath the edge connections where the one edge butted up against the edge of the next sheet of plywood. Of course, that presented another problem. That 3/8 inch strip is going to lift up the plywood roof. I have to somehow sink that 6-inch strip down into the roof so that it's not bulging up or pushing up the edges of the plywood or just lifting the roof up higher than it's supposed to be. Well, it's a styrofoam roof. I could have used a razor or some type of cutting tool and tried to cut a channel, but it's styrofoam. Styrofoam melts pretty easily. Why not just use a heat gun and melt down a little channel? So that's what I did. And you can see me here with the heat gun. It took a little time, but it went quicker than I had anticipated. And of course, it's not an exact science. You don't get a nice straight edge channel for the 6-inch strip of plywood, but so what? I just had to make sure I melted it down as uniformly as possible so that the 6-inch strip of 3/8 plywood wouldn't stick up in one area or another. I put the roofing sheet of plywood down where it was going to be, then using a Sharpie marker, I drew on the foam where the edge fell. Then I moved that roofing sheet back out of the way, and using that mark as a center line, I marked 3 inches in front and 3 inches behind it to give me my 6-inch channel markings for the area I needed to melt. That way, this 6-inch joint piece would be centered between the two roofing pieces. I would screw the edges down into that 3/8 plywood underneath, and that would keep the edges from warping and twisting against each other, and one side coming up or the other side twisting down and then tearing the roof. You can see I put the screws in staggered, one close to the edge, one a little farther away from the edge, trying to keep that 3/8 plywood from twisting underneath and creating other problems, and to try to spread out the gripping force, hopefully to provide a little more prevention of warping or twisting. And this is what it looks like so far, with the mess of tools and supplies and equipment. It's late in the evening, and the lighting here is not the best, but I sure thank God for this place to work on this thing. This has been just a perfect place for it. Not exactly perfect, I guess. The roof leaks, and I've got to be careful whenever it rains. I got to cover the whole blessed thing over with a tarp. But they're more than helpful here, and just all kinds of things. There's what's left to do. I'm going to put a 42-inch piece in here. It's going to come to the middle of the air conditioner hole here, which is where the previous one was, and I'm thinking that the weight of the air conditioner would probably be best right on the seam rather than right before or right after. If I put a 48-inch, it would come right out to the end, and then the air conditioner weight would be right on the edge of one board, and the other board would then have the tendency to come up, I would think. But if I put it right on the seam, and it's holding the seam, and there's no chance that one or the other is going to be, twisting back and forth. The air conditioner will hold that seam down. And this is the hole that the TV was in, the TV box. There was a big tube TV. There was no hole in the roof, of course, but there was a hole in the ceiling, and there was a frame, a box in there screwed to the aluminum framing. Well, I framed it out with wood, and I have no idea what I'm going to do inside there. There's not going to be a TV in the bedroom. I hate TV. We got the holes cut out for the air conditioner here. The fantastic fan there, skylight there, and then the bathroom vent fan there. I have 1/2 inch plywood down instead of the 1/4 inch. Much sturdier. I'm a little concerned because it seems flat up here, whereas it seems much more domed farther back. From about here on back, it seems like it has much more of a rise in the middle than it does up here. As long as there's a little rise, as long as the water doesn't puddle up here, I'll be alright. But I'm just a little concerned about that once the weight of the air conditioner goes on here. It still seems a little soft here when I walk on this, even with the 1/2 inch plywood. But that's how far I've gotten. I've been working on this off and on in between working my regular business. I work on this for a day or two, and then I have to work on business work for a day or two, keep the customers happy. I've spent in total maybe 5 days on this, 6 days on this, good solid days so far. Tear off, clean up, and then installing the wood. It's nice to see it come back together a little bit now. It feels good to be putting things back on instead of tearing off. You get a much better sense of accomplishment, satisfaction that way. All the prep work is absolutely necessary. It's crucial to get all the prep work done and get it done right. But it's much more rewarding, much more satisfying to see it coming together. And here is the air conditioning cavity. I am tying up the wires, hanging them with these wire clips, and then these wires have to go around the back of the air conditioner cavity, and then they go back down there, and that wire goes over to the speaker, and I don't know where else that goes. And I ran some extra wires to the speaker. This is the bedroom in here, because I'm going to run an auxiliary input jack in the back by the headboard, so I can hook up a CD player or an MP3 player or something back there and just play it in the bedroom if I so desire. That involved running 4 new wires to each speaker. There's a speaker, and then here's the other one. And the wires to the right side here come through the air conditioning cavity because I ran them inside the same little conduit, plastic conduit that they use for the others. It wasn't too much hassle threading them through. A bit of work, but it wasn't too bad. And then it runs down the wall, the wire runs down the wall, and it runs in right over here. There's a hole in the wall there that I can run through, and then we'll run it on the inside and run it across to the back. But before, all they had holding all these wiring up was a bunch of foil tape similar to what you see here, and they just wrapped it around this and kind of glommed it on, and kind of Mickey Mouse operation. It doesn't really matter, it's inside the air conditioner. As long as it doesn't interfere with the airflow or the operation of the air conditioner, it doesn't really matter. But I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I hate wires hanging and dangling. And now I have to get some more foil tape, because I'm going to tape up around here. And then of course I have to do the same thing on this side. This is going to be even more fun because there's a big mess of wires here. So again, I'm going to cover it up here, and cover it up here, and maybe run a piece down here just for good measure to make sure that the Cold air goes into the ducts and not into the conduit. Cold wires do not serve any purpose. Well, it's time for me to go home and feed my face and get some shut-eye and come back tomorrow and do it all over again. See ya!